First, what is a quick run? A quick run is a brief take on multiple pillars of online gaming content in one video, those pillars being analysis, let's play, and review. In this video, I will start with a brief analysis of how the game in question came to be, a shortened let's play which will allow you to witness how I go on to develop the opinions I will later discuss in the closing review section. If you're only interested in one particular portion, here are the timestamps for them. With that said, I'll stop wasting our time and get this show on the road. So it's the year 2000 and PC gaming has already been going absolutely crazy for the last decade. I mean, just look at these sexy graphics. Alongside shooters, which were discovering just how well they could take advantage of the mouse, other genres that had come to define PC gaming, especially during this time, were the real-time strategies. A number of series had already made their mark in this category, such as Age of Empires, StarCraft, Command & Conquer, Warcraft, Total Annihilation, and more. This was already a packed house, so would there really be room for another? Well, what if you spliced it with the gameplay seen in other popular PC games of the era, being resource management turn-based strategies, or Civ-likes as you might know them. This was the risk British game developer Creative Assembly decided to take in June 2000 with the release of Total War Shogun. Or, wait, it's Shogun Total War? And apparently this is actually the name scheme for all games released for the next decade? Wow, that just feels wrong. Regardless of that one particular poor decision, Shogun Total War would be a pretty big success, allowing the company to stop just porting EA Sports games from consoles to PCs and start just making Total War games, as they should. Hey, back! We'll get to you. After experiencing success with Total War, Creative Assembly really started to get the eyes of the industry on it, and in 2005 it was purchased wholly by Sega. After that, the company would spend the next decade releasing further Total War games. Though, during this time period, there was a growing concern about a trend with support for the games dropping before all significant issues could be patched out, which was especially apparent in their first release under Sega, Empire Total War. A commercially successful, though somewhat polarizing entry. Still, the company would primarily focus on Total War for the decade after the Sega acquisition, and whatever spin-off releases might have come out, while generally critically panned, often weren't heavy losses. Things changed though when Alien Isolation released in 2014. The game was not a major commercial success, but it was a critical darling, which encouraged Sega to push the studio to pursue another style of game which would indeed achieve the desired financial results. How significantly this diverted resources away from other projects, the company is likely to never say, and Total War games were still released during this time. The generally well-received Total War Warhammers 1 and 2 released in 2016 and 2017 respectively, as well as my own personal favorite game of the franchise, Total War 3 Kingdoms, released in 2019. This also doesn't include the Total War Saga games, Thrones of Britannia and Troy, which were intended to be Total War games with a tighter, if smaller, focus. Eventually though, it was time to announce the results of their other efforts. Hyenas have been worked on internally since 2017, with a focus on achieving economic results after Alien's Isolation failed in that particular regard, at least to Sega's standards. The chosen genre, well of course, the money-making machine that is the online first-person shooter. As we all know, this is not an oversaturated market, and this was a great business decision. Surprisingly, however, after the game was shown off in 2022, reception wasn't so hot. While different ideas were thrown around, such as making the game a free-to-play, the final result was just to outright cancel the game in 2023. The major issue with this? By this point, Hyenas had reportedly become Sega's highest budget game ever, exceeding Shenmue's $70 million. This was a major loss for the company, which, along with other issues, would see them in a fairly negative light. Releasing 2 weeks after the cancellation of Hyenas, in the midst of this negative light, was the subject of today's video, Total War Pharaoh. Pharaoh had been worked on by Creative Assembly Sofia, the studio that had before worked on Saga Troy. The new game would be more grounded in history, with less fantastical elements like the romance mode of 3 Kingdoms. Battles would change in general, with the goal of players making fewer yet more meaningful choices. Upon release, reception was not the best. Reviews typically ranged from not bad to not great. It did not help that the game had been announced at the start to have deluxe and dynasty editions for a cost. With all the bad publicity coming the last few months, Creative Assembly ended up making the decision to lower the cost of the game from $60 to $40 and announced the planned future updates would now be free. Less than a year later, the Dynasties update would bring an enormous amount of new content to the game, greatly expanding the map and including new playable regions and features. The reviews for this new update, so massive it is nearly an entirely new game, have been pretty good. Nothing crazy, but mostly positive. With all of this said, it is now time for me to perform my own test of the material at hand and judge Total War Pharaoh.
Into the eternal lands of the afterlife.
Alright, so we're about to get started. I'm not going to hang around too much because, well, it's going to be long for me. It's not supposed to be long for you. And also, I'm actually recording this little first opening bit because I somehow lost my original recording of the opening section. So rehopping into it just to show you what I did. You start with your person. I picked Ramses.
Rising dawn.
You're a great guy, Ramses. Good job. We played hard. Fulfill your destiny. Get an opening cutscene. Pays to be the Pharaoh.
When my father Ramses II reconquered the Sinai Peninsula, he made two things clear. First, our empire is built upon the stone and bronze found there. And second, we must never let it slip from our grasp again.
That'll be our job as Ramses, I should say. Okay, so not to linger too long, this is our guy Ramses, just like a regular Total
Destiny
War.
calls me, and I am compelled to answer.
Thank you. You click around on the map. We have our opening tutorial fight here. I'll handle that in a little bit. But first thing I think you should always do when starting a Total War game is get your trades in order. Diplomacy menu here. Our guy, our resources, you'll see what we are good in, what we lack. You'll try to find a resource that someone says they're not interested in. Very nice. And trade with them. So they're not interested in stone because they have a ton of it, which means they would love to get rid of their stone. We will go through all of these guys.
All will
trade.
remember me.
That's nice. We'll trade with every single one we can find, something like this, to handle our resource situation. And right, I hope you guys have a great watch. All right, so as you can see, we've gone through pretty much every faction that doesn't, completely hate us, establishing barter agreements. With that, giving up about 15 gold a turn and a few other odds and ends, we've generated 240 stone a turn, which sort of completely negates the fact that we don't produce any stone ourselves. We just sort of go in.
I fight for my brothers.
All right, that's nice of you, man.
Canaan remembers. Keep that in mind when you fight here.
Got it. Ask them for what they have too much of, which right now, at the very beginning of the game, every single one of these factions thinks they have too much stone, even though I'm pretty sure most of them don't even produce it themselves. Tap it up to wherever it is that stays green. 1 gold, 14 stone. Good enough for me.
So, we agree.
We do agree. I don't think you should, but I'm happy you do. Okay. Additionally, I tried this first time through. Probably going to be pointless as it stands now. We can check for marriage agreements because Ramses is a young man. He's unmarried. He has no one in his family. It seems weird that it doesn't put his dad in his family tree, but oh well. Unfortunately,
Warrior of Egypt,
no
we are
one
of one
here
mind, you and I, where legacy is concerned.
is interested enough in allowing for a diplomatic marriage for various reasons. The baseline evaluation is just not high enough because we are not impressive enough to these people, which seems a little messed up, but it is what it is. And I'm not willing to give them enough stuff to make it happen. I mean, let's look what we have to do. So what do we have to give them? You want gold? How much will we have to give you? Just tap it up, tap it up, tap it up, tap it up, tap it up. And eventually he's just not even interested anymore. It doesn't even do anything for him. Bronze 2. Tap it up, tap it up, tap it up. And it doesn't even care. We can't even get it into green. So no, it's not happening right now. That's pretty much what's going to be for all of these for way too long of amount of time that I'm willing to wait. So we're going to just do this the boring way. No arrange a marriage. We can find someone who's... Okay, the only thing we really care about is, for civilian characters, is the chance of having a child. There's a boost here. Yeah, that's good enough. Alright. So this way we can start on the family tree. The oh so important family dynamic. Bro decrees. This is the tech tree version of this game. From what I saw in my first little practice run, happiness can be a pretty big deal. So maybe that was just me not doing it quite right, but we'll start out with some happiness. Fortunately, we have reminders over here. Usually just before you end your turn, it's best to click on this. Because even if you don't have this left over, sometimes an action will be considered important enough to prevent you from going to the next turn. You still click over here, see it, what you should probably do before you move on. We have a lot of buildings we can do. We're about to be losing a lot of happiness. So go into the building browser to see what we have here. And it'll let you know what resources you require. It doesn't just take these resources up here, but it also actually require an available worker, which you can see down here how many you have to work with. More pending action. General not moved. Alright, so here's a little tutorial fight.
Destiny calls me, and I am compelled to answer.
The boy's mind has been touched by a god, I have no doubt. Why else would he refuse to see the inevitability of his own defeat? Currently facing Ramses III in battle. We have the high ground.
In terrain such as this, every natural feature may conceal enemy forces. Beware of unseen foes.
Kill them all!
Alright, so now that I can pretty much just let this handle itself, what's going on here is obviously units of blue are ours, units of red are theirs. What you're trying to get a unit to do is, you'll notice they're not just vanishing from the screen, they're running away. A unit can go from confident in fighting to broken or fatigued, which means they're just losing morale. Once they've lost enough morale, they will start to run away. And if you completely destroy their willingness to fight, they will rout. Routing means they're off the battlefield. They will not return, try to fight you again. They won't recover their confidence. They are gone. You can still try to destroy the unit though, which for most fights is a good tactic, is to just keep on them, try and completely get rid of the unit. But I believe for every Total War tutorial fight, or like first fight of the match, just the moment you win, they just vanish from the map. We'll leave that as is, see if I was right. I actually haven't seen that animation
We
yet.
are
Very
warriors
cool.
without peer.
I don't think I lost enough units. After an end of the battle, you're given 3 options. To replenish units by forcing the enemy that you captured into your own army. Just kill them off now, which will boost the morale of your army. Seems a little messed up, but that's how it works. Or you can just release them, and that benefits your treasury. I guess you're taking their stuff before you let them go. Normally, I just go for the treasury, especially for this first battle. I don't have enough lost units that I need to replenish.
Spread word of my might. The gods have blessed me.
Have indeed. We can actually still reach this first town. I believe I'm going to try and do that. That's a good point. Okay.
Destiny calls me, and I am compelled to answer.
In this game, you get experience for your generals from a couple different things, mostly from battle, and they have 3 different slots you can put the skill points into, which benefits you in different ways. Presence, Fortitude, Ardor. Presence gives you a better upkeep for your military, so it costs less. All the units currently under this general will take less food a turn. Some of them also take bronze, so the higher you get this up, the less of those resources they will take a turn, which can definitely be very useful. At first, though, because Ramses has absolutely nothing in his Fortitude, so he doesn't really replenish after battles, I'm going to start with that. In addition, the higher these trait levels go, you can assign titles once you have cleared a threshold for a certain trait. So because Ramses starts with such high ardor, he can already get a rank 2 trait for that. Movement restored after battle 20%. We'll go with that one. We will go ahead and take the offensive on Sukkot. As you can see, we're not necessarily favored in this battle. Auto prediction says we'd still win, so you can auto-resolve a fight, and it'll result in whatever your general predicts will happen. So if you're not a big fan of the battles and really just want the strategy aspect of it, you can fully play this game by just auto-resolving everything. I usually start auto-resolving a lot of my battles the longer a game goes on, but especially early on when it really benefits to perform well in each battle. It's usually best just manually fight. They're also not too long at this stage of the game. You don't have enough units for it to last overly long.
Your forces are ready to storm the settlement. Study the enemy position well, for they may concentrate their defenses among the narrow streets.
Okay, so in this battle we're actually attacking a town as opposed to just on an open field. So this gives us strategic points or victory points, which are a good idea to try and capture from the enemy if you can. If we take it, it will at least get rid of their bonus morale because we are under sweltering conditions. I'm just going to walk the troops forward. For some reason, they are marching out to meet us, which doesn't really make sense. I think they'd establish a defensive line and try and let their arrows do the work.
Break them!
But if they want to come out to meet us, I'm perfectly good with that. Usually missile units do not fare well against melee units, so we're going to get rid of their archers right away. If I had a faster unit, honestly probably should have gone to take that over there, break their morale.
Victory is within your grasp.
Good. Hit it down. After taking a town, shoot, that was bad. I didn't do great there. After taking a town, just all the units are done for that were stationed within the town. You don't need to worry about mopping up units afterwards.
They'll sing songs of this.
Occupy. I generally don't.
I have earned this city.
I generally don't do anything but occupy the town.
I grow stronger each day.
There are advantages to doing the other actions, but I rarely ever feel the need to do them. I prefer to peacefully take over town. That's also just role-playing wise. I just prefer to peacefully take over, if at all possible. We have conquered the sacred land of our ancestors, North Sinai. Expanded our territory a little. Our next target, Azadi. I don't know what he's doing there. Thank you, Betasaurus. He has no troops. The town itself will have troops, but he doesn't have extra that will be benefiting it anyway. So we'll probably move on him next turn if that does not dramatically change in some way. Alright, so you can see why I was mentioning happiness would be a problem. I saw this in the first round my little playthrough. I actually really struggled with happiness just from the conquest subtraction. So not only is it 15 for the first turn after conquering a new territory, there's also provincial instability, which goes down 1 a turn every turn. And if you go fast enough, I had it like -9 a turn, plus I lost 30 for the 2 conquest. I was down to like 2 happiness. Then someone invaded me, and so there was this attraction for foreign forces and raiding. So yeah, we're gonna try and get that up fast, just in case. All right, so with all that building complete, that was turn 1. Yeah, that was turn 1. I feel like I should really hit that hard. Because these games get into hundreds of turns, and while usually turns in the middle go much faster than your first turn when you really got to stop and think and plan out, it doesn't change the fact that was a while. So I'd tell you to buckle up, but don't worry, I'll be cutting out most of the fluff and filler of the in-between sections. Alright, let's see if this happens again.
The flesh is weak, but the soul of a pharaoh lives on for eternity.
Yeah, with the Dynasties expansion, it seems like it's probably takes a while for it to load everyone.
My ambition is reward.
Your people suffer at the hands of enemy raiders. Send out warriors to eliminate this threat once and for all.
Not what I want to talk about right now, but thank you. Yep. Okay, so Lepta has passed away. Turn 2. I don't know. For some reason, I assumed his death would be like a scripted event that happens at a certain moment. It is definitely not, because originally he lived until, I think it was turn 10 I made it to. Yeah, he was still alive then. Sorry, old man. See you later. Let's go ahead and get rid of this raider, dude. What are you doing here, man? It's just you. Get out of here. So now it is time to follow through with the taking of the Sinai Peninsula. Start top down since we're already up here. Beersheba and down. Making this attack is an act of war. If you wish to proceed, declare war. Except not really. Gotta look one more time. Really want you to think about it. There's really no point in calling my ally since they're so far away. This should be done in about 4 turns. If it's not, something is going horribly wrong. He's an aggressive opportunist. Seems like so am I.
I was born for war. Take them down.
Yeah, you get him, buddy. Oh, not really.
Strike hard.
No shot. Alright, so before we get started with this little invasion, this wonderful little detail about most of the Total War games. So, reinforcements will enter the battle from the direction that they were kind of standing on the actual map. But you can really take advantage of that by just flopping your army. Especially if the reinforcements coming are relatively small and you think you can kind of squash them before anyone else manages to get to you. Like, this is 1 unit, I believe. Allow our dude to walk on out, and... Yep. Get rid of him.
Put Canaan to the sword. The enemy has lost a victory point.
As you can see in the way that they march themselves out to us, that I'm really hoping the AI is a bit smarter on harder difficulties. Maybe I should have just went ahead and put it whatever those top 2 were. It's still the first run of this particular Total War game, so it's good for now. At that. Okay, and touching back in. So what has been going on in the last few turns? You see we're up to turn 9 now. A few things. One, I got stuck in a pretty big slog trying to take Beersheba. Yeah, they had quite a few more troops than I did. And it was a struggle. But fortunately, I managed to pull off one battle where I was able to get the reinforcements coming in from 3 different directions. And I was able to wipe out 2 of them for then facing the main force and on a much more even footing. But what I really wanted to point out is a couple new things that have been introduced to the game. One is ambitions. They're like little quests that'll show up every now and again, giving you a focused goal to try and tackle. So the one I selected at the time was to conquer a region who's producing stone, which was going to be this bottom right region was the one I was focusing on. I did not realize at the time I selected it with a 10-turn limit that I would get bogged down over here. Most likely will not happen, but that's alright. There's also a drought, which considering troops already take a lot of food, that did not help. Might actually need to get rid of some units, which would be really unfortunate because it already costs a lot just to get them in the first place. The other thing I want to talk about beyond ambitions was power of the crown. So I checked into this just a little bit in my first playthrough because it pops up around the same time, turn 9, turn 10, and you get to decide what your focus is going to be on. Royal traditions are you going to focus on? We started in Egypt, going with Egypt. So here's the Egyptian royal traditions. We are siding, of course, with Egypt. And Seti, because Merneptah has passed away, Seti is the pharaoh. He does not actually have a scion because it has been so recent. I am very curious to see who he'll pick. If he'll wait till he has a child to put into that place, or if he will select someone else, we will see. This will also unlock the court.
This court is designed to serve me.
So yeah, here's the court. Various people of influence within the Egyptian sphere get assigned to various roles that have different bonuses to being attached to them. If you're not in a specific role, you can still act. We're going to focus on making a little money right now, so I can make some trades, trying to get our food situation back on track. Additionally, there is Ancient Legacy, which is sort of like a guide to how you want to behave in the game. Being this is my first game, I'd like to just conquer territories, traditional Total War style. But there are some different options from what I can see. You can act like a merchant, travel around making money. You can try and build up a holy city, be the absolute most religious person you can be, or you can build wonders like Civ. We are going to go ahead and be a conqueror. I mean, it's our first game. That's the way I usually try to play Total War. So, I mean, it's in the name. So, most the conqueror. This choice is permanent. You cannot choose a different Ancient Legacy later. Select Ancient Legacy, confirm.
The skill of Thutmose III in conquering territory was unsurpassed and brought great glory and power to Egypt. His lessons are worth learning by anyone who would emulate or even overtake his achievements.
So we're going to select a target city. Our goal, Ashkelon. We're not going to initiate conquest just yet, because we're not even focusing northwards just yet. But that is the new things I want to introduce. Oh, also we had a little baby boy. That's pretty cute. I do like the little drawings. I do think it's a bit weird, like the super extreme juxtaposition between, you know, like your main characters, Ramses, and then I forget what that writing style is called, but the drawing art form. But yeah, it's still cute. It's so cute. All right, welcome back again. Although for you, no time has passed, so I don't know why I'm saying this. It looks like Seti, the pharaoh, has sent us a request for us to be adopted into his dynasty. I believe that's what it's saying. I doubt he's trying to get adopted into my dynasty of no one. But he's even offering me food to accept it, which seems very strange. It feels like he's got all the power, and yeah, not sure what I'm offering here, but I suppose I'll take it. I don't really have a reason not to want to be the son of the pharaoh. Yeah, let's go ahead, dude. Gods have granted me wisdom indeed. Thanks, Dad. Oh man, this will be close, guys. Come on, Ra. Watch over me. Oh man. I think that's all the stress I can handle for a day.
Peace is a delicate balance. But when brothers turn against each other, virtues are abandoned. And bloodshed is inevitable.
Yes, my barter agreement expiring is clearly the most important matter of the day. So, a new pretender rises. Shaddai's renown has grown so much that they have made known their aspirations to the throne. Civil war erupts. Conflict engulfs Egyptian lands. Some gaze upon the throne, clutching weapons in their hands. Who shall prove to be the true ruler? A civil war has begun. So let's see. Let's see if we can get diplomatic status. Figure out who's doing what. Okay, well, that's interesting. This is the guy, I'm pretty sure, who started the Civil War, and yet he's still treasurer? It's not making it very clear who's at war here. The Pharaoh has been challenged and is now involved in the Civil War trying to retain the throne. This action has challenged the Pharaoh and will be looking to claim the throne. Okay, so not actually as much as I thought would be going on. I thought it would essentially be splitting everyone onto one side. And I honestly didn't know. I was like, oh shoot, now these guys are at war with me. Nah, it seems a lot less involved, which is probably accurate to the time. Oh well. Let's just get back to retaking the Sinai. As for that, by the way, all that's left is Hedge, which unfortunately this group held out long enough. I probably won't be able to complete this ambition. It's literally one turn left, and it's at least 2 moves just to get to the city. So, unfortunate, but hey, lessons learned. Alright, so as you can see here, we finally managed to take the Sinai Peninsula, except, if you got a sharp eye, you'll notice, no we haven't, because of this section. Just as we managed to take Hetch, this last little holdout, this lovely bearded man showed up out of nowhere, declared war, and burned my stuff to the ground. That's not mine anymore. So we'll have to deal with that in a second. Along with that, going into diplomacy, see, I lost a lot of trust, as well as I'm no longer friendly with this guy. I think this is technically supposed to be my biological dad, but whatever the heck happened, he decided he wanted to declare war on the Pharaoh, which no, I'm not going to do that. I was in the middle of things. So I said no, which made me an untrustworthy douchebag. I don't feel like it's really my fault. I feel like it's more of a stupid idea on this guy's part. But it is what it is. Trustworthiness means people are less likely to want to make diplomatic deals with you, which is kind of a pain because that's also tied in with the bargaining and the trade. So I feel like I'm getting less good deals recently, but it goes down. Started like 14 and wasn't all that long ago. So anyway, some holdups, but we've almost got there. Oh, and remember when I said, as the turns go on, it gets quicker. Yeah, well, my 32 pinning actions might have something to say about that. So, I mean, no, really, it's literally almost the end of the day now. I started this, like, at the beginning of the day, like, my Saturday. And the day's over. I haven't even taken this peninsula. Additionally, here in the court,
I am
notice...
Pharaoh. In this court, you serve my will.
I should just turn the voices off. Sorry. You'll notice these left 2 spots now just have empty, nothing portraits. The High Priest of Amun, I can't really do anything with. I'm assuming that's because you need a certain amount of faith to interact with it. But if I want to become the Vizier, I can buy my way into it right now. I'm not honestly sure if I want to. It says it gives you 14 legitimacy, the assassinate plot, and extra court actions, but I already get extra court actions because of Ramsey's special ability. I'm not in a rush to be overthrowing the Pharaoh. I'm trying to focus on the northeast. So if anything, I want the west and the southwest to be good and like me and be my allies. So for now, I might just ignore it, which makes it's been leaving this open slot for a while. And they're like, hurry, hurry. There's an open slot you can take. You don't want to miss your chance. And I'm like, I'm good. Oh, this fucker. This fucker. No, he's just waited till I had everything in the south. Oh, that sucks. Well, yeah.
Peace is a delicate balance. But when brothers turn against each other, virtues are abandoned. and bloodshed.
So yeah, that was super weird to me. I went back so I could show that. I doubt that's a Civil War I'm gonna be able to interact with at all anyway. Plus, now I get to see that the cutscene is fortunately very similar. It's just different enough for me to wonder why they didn't go the extra mile. Even had the people do the same actions. I don't know if it's supposed to be like a metaphor thing. Oh, there you well, hey, here's something new. I even had a barter with you guy. Come on. Why are we doing this? A guiding hand. The last thing I'm sure either of us desires is a conflict of interest, dear friend. So I'd ask that you remain idle until I've concluded my business. Of course, you shall be financially compensated for the loss of any alliance you might otherwise have had your heart set upon. Alright, let's see what we can do about repairing this crumbling castle. This is getting... this is getting ridiculous. How does he even move so far in one turn? Screw it, this guy. Dude, go away.
But when brothers turn against each other...
So I'm not going to show you the full thing again, because...
virtues are abandoned.
Come on. It's this... you can skip it, so it's not a big deal, but why? Why does it even... Very strange. It's very strange. So I hit a bit of a point where... And I'm actually re-saying this because I felt very whiny the first time I said it. Which I guess is kind of fair, because essentially what I was saying was, I don't know if I want to keep playing. Because I don't mind losing. I want to make it clear before I say the rest. I don't mind losing battles and stuff. That's part of the fun of strategy games, is like, oh, my strategy was flawed, better rethink it. This just feels like it's kind of got dumped on randomly by a lot of things at once. The most annoying one, I would say, even worse than like, oh, these guys have a whole ton of troops all at once. I don't really have the resources to field enough troops to even really do anything about that. The most annoying thing, though, is that who took this place? It's these guys. It's the Pyramses. That's the Egyptian dudes. They're part of my faction. If I attack them, you know, if I go in, I do my command thing so I can march on them.
Of Egypt.
Declare war. Do you want to declare war on this faction? Your reliability rating will change around blah 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 blah, and you'll be condemned by all factions. This will impact the faction's attitude. Around -82. It's just like I shoot myself in the foot if I do that. Pretty bad. Not really sure what I'm feeling on this one. Not really sure. Might reload. It's kind of lame though. I feel like I'm cheating when I do that. It's like you're cheesing the whole system. But I also don't really want to spend multiple hours retaking what I spent multiple hours taking in the first place. You know, there's only so much time. Oh well, I'll think about it. If there's more to this video, you'll know what happened. Oh yeah, this is about to be interesting. I want you to know how good this is about to make me feel.
I have been dreaming of this slaughter.
As we get everyone marching here, you might be thinking, oh good, he did continue through with it. No, I did not. Well, I did, but that's not what this is. I tried to carry through with it a few more turns, and just kept taking my territory. And the final straw was I lost a fight, one of those really big army battles. Pretty much everyone I had against like 2 or 3 of their generals. Yeah, lost. They had too many people, and the bigger issue was Ramses died. It was like, okay, this is pretty much over. So I still didn't want to just quit, though. I didn't want to just quit. I went back to a few turns before that one guy declared war, the one I'm fighting right now, and I ran up to try and meet him before he could take like all of my territory. He did manage to pillage one, but fortunately I got to it before the other people came and took it themselves. So it's bad, but it's not that bad. It's manageable. So yep. I just want to be clear though. It's like it's just because these turns are so long. Like I only had to go back like 7 turns, and yet that was still about 2 hours ago.
Fearless, willful, ruthless, unstoppable. I dread the day the tide might bring them back. The people of the sea.
No idea what that could be about. Let's just not worry about it. Okay. Alright, so an update now that the Sea Peoples might be coming. I think that's a crisis event, sort of similar to Stellaris, which keep the game from getting repetitive or dragging on. As the game progresses, we'll start getting crisis events. I honestly don't feel like I need that right now, but it is what it is. We'll deal. I was able to crush that one guy. Ooh, felt so good. But at the same time, the people who declared war on me before, Shechem, they still did so. Fortunately, though, all of my troops were up north, and I was a little more prepared. So when we got into our big battle this time, I was able to pull off the dub. Once I beat the big battle, they didn't really have anyone left, so I've just been, slurping it up. Hopefully that continues. I'm able to easily take these next two. I don't really want to continue too much further forward, because then we get into an open area where there's more sides to be attacked from. Go back and focus on this region. I'd like to vie for Pharaoh soon. The one thing that hasn't changed and desperately needs to is having the number of troops I do in order to be viable in those big battles. It's crushing me. 2,000 every turn. I'm just barely managing to hang in there by like selling everything I have. It's crazy. Fortunately, I get a ton of stone now, which is good, and it's helping me build my actual infrastructure. Yeesh. We're hanging in there. Hanging in there. Okay. Alright, so checking back in. I popped into my my court to do my regularly scheduled
Tread
turn.
carefully in my court. I will not tolerate disobedience.
Yeah, I don't. You're the thing I'm about to talk about. So I did my intrigue thing, and then I looked up. I was like, wait a second, you look weird. What is this? Then I saw. I just used my finger to point at my screen. You guys can't see that. Minipe? Minip? Minip? Minipe? Mini P? He's got Mini P. Alright, Mini P over here. He's just suddenly the Pharaoh. And I have no idea where this guy came from. So I looked at my events to suddenly see a new Pharaoh Mini P. Alright. Pharaoh position vacant. SETI is the position of Pharaoh sits empty, abandoned by SETI for reasons unknown. It's like, what could those reasons unknown be? Where did he go? Is he on vacation? Probably not. So it's definitely dead. But that is very strange that it's not more of a notice of some kind, like letting me know what's going on. Also, interestingly, when you go into the Power of the Crown, now you get to see this dude. Look how it shakes and vibrates. Mini P, he's going a little wild here. Lastly, over in Dynasty. Now our Dynasty tree looks like this. So apparently these are all my brothers I've never met. That's cool. It's just, here he is. Mini P. He's my dad now. One last detail about all this to point out. If you look at a Pharaoh's deeds, you can see some interesting things. But the one I particularly noticed was Bane of Mini P. The supreme ruler has defeated the armies of Mini P 3 times. So they were at war. Now he's gone. Maybe not dead, because his date doesn't actually have an ending thing here, which is very strange. But the story, so much unknown. So we just finished off Shechem. But the moment we did so, someone else took their place. But it kind of works out. It's the guys who controlled this city, but I was kind of hoping to take this pretty soon anyway. So this just means they're off all for what is about to happen. It's not my bad. This also gives us opportunity to finally check out this, because I haven't actually needed to use it yet. Ashkelon. Let's see what it does. Do you want to start a conquest against the selected target? You can only have one active conquest at a time. There's now a plus mark down here. Alright. Oh, I spend money to make things happen. Oh, that's lame. I don't want to spend my money. Alright, additionally, beyond that, I noticed
Mine is a court worthy of the gods.
That's very nice. I became the heir. I don't know why. I almost wish, I think that's something I'll probably talk about later. I think I wish there was a bit more pomp and circumstance, actually. It feels like a lot of things are just kind of going on, it is what it is. Doesn't really matter much. Those little cutscenes that happen, I feel like there should be more of them, and they should be better. This isn't a crazy thing to expect to happen, right? Being made heir to the Pharaoh. I guess they have no way of knowing who the Pharaoh would be, but even then you don't have to include the person in the cutscene. I think for the important characters, like if you play as a major faction, there honestly should be, because there's only like 10 major factions in the game, and that's even with the Dynasties expansion. I don't feel like it would be that hard to briefly show, Ramses in the cutscene before then transitioning into most to be like, it is time for new blood to enter the throne. What might we expect as a new heir is announced? Blah, 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 blah. Oh well. It's just is what it is. It's still very cool. I just wish there was a little bit more to it. Be kind of nice.
But when brothers turn against each other,
You get the same cutscene 4 times. Okay, it's.
virtues are
I
abandoned.
know I said I wanted more cutscenes, but I meant like different ones, not the exact same cutscene. 13 times.
And
Just because you
bloodshed.
changed their hat. Tears of the Kingdom could have learned that lesson too.
So I just got very lucky. They actually came in and attacked Azati, but they didn't take it. They just raided it and left, which I'm totally fine with. I'd rather have to worry about rebuilding it because I can do that wherever my units are. Like I can go in, be like, oh, my stuff is broke. Oh, that's so sad. Azati, it's like, oh, it's broken. Shame. So this is an encampment battle. It's a position you take on the map. If you put your unit to encamp, they can't move anymore. But if attacked, they'll start with a bit of a base to give them an advantage. Got the watchtowers that will fire arrows on enemies coming to attack them, which is good. I'm not super pumped about these, because I just fought another one, and as you can see, I am supposed to be losing, which is fair. They have way more troops than I do. These fights are winnable, but only through like diligent effort, and that's not super fun. Because normally that means you're gonna play the entire fight in slow motion or play. You're never gonna go faster. So you need to be paying attention, super focused. Because the enemy's never gonna attack you if they don't think they can win, which means you're never gonna do an encampment fight with an overwhelming advantage. First thing I want to do is get rid of generals. I need these guys dead and gone. Because there's a major morale penalty to the enemy when a general dies. These guys firing? No, because they can't see over the wall. Oh, that. Divine right. Destiny beckons. The time has come for you to press your claim to the throne. Let's get this.
My ambition is rewarded.
New gods. You've discovered Kumarbi.
Destiny calls me, and I am compelled to answer.
Sure seems to. That's it. Yeah, we're Pharaoh now. I guess. That's all that happened.
Mighty Pharaoh Ramesses III, declare this court in session.
Yeah, it's kind of disappointing. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. That it's just sort of that's it. I got a little message that very, very briefly flashed. Also feels really unimportant. What do I get from this? Yeah,
Gaze in awe, for my court is the envy of the world.
that's great, buddy. But I wish it meant more. Yeah, sorry. Okay, so to finish real fast, there was actually this battle for Ashkelon, which I'm probably going to use as the footage for when I'm talking about the review. It's just like the background footage, because it was a pretty tense battle. The game crashed right after it, and having to do it again and just the other factors. I was thinking about stopping, but I couldn't bring myself to stop till I at least had some level of victory achieved. Right, that should be all I really need to say. I probably won't need to put too much more footage in because it just seems like nothing is really changing any further as the game goes along. Like even that becoming Pharaoh, what did that do that really matters? I don't feel like I'm now in charge of anything in particular. This just is what it is. But I'll talk more about that later. See you in a little bit. As for the resources present, Total War Pharaoh has introduced a larger number of key resources while reducing the overall total. Gone are the jade, silk, spice, tea, copper, and more of Three Kingdoms. At that time, having one of these resources within your territory would simply enable certain buildings and increase trade influence. Now the 5 resources are all given their own individual stocks, and you need to ensure you have enough of them all. In theory, it is increasing importance while decreasing variety. However, in practice, what it is actually increasing is the time necessary to micromanage. Early on, you're going to have at least one resource you don't have and need more of. In my Ramesses run, that was stone. It was not difficult to make up for this lack by trading, however, the game has a built-in trade limiter that discourages having trades for multiple turns. By lowering the opponent's trade value whenever you increase the turn count, it pushes you to set trade to every 5 turns, the minimum amount. Which means you will have to come back every 5 turns to redo a trade, as most likely you won't suddenly no longer need stone, just within 5 turns. This almost had something of a solution to its self-imposed problem by allowing for you to click directly to an expired barter agreement to re-establish it if possible. However, if you have multiple barters, as I often had as many as I could, this became an extremely tedious process. A better possibility would be for trade agreements to simply remain in effect until one side cancels them, so long as the AI isn't a complete pain about that as well. Also, there should really be a lot more of each individual resource to contribute to if we want to pretend that this lesser amount really isn't important. Most of the time, wood and stone just sort of blend together as building materials, and bronze is just another food-esque resource that you need to build and maintain units. Otherwise, this just feels like less variety than in previous games. Admittedly, this has been a consistent problem with other Total War games, but it should not be so difficult to establish non-aggression pacts and other low-tier diplomatic options. Why do all the nations within my own realm, having been Egypt, start with an inherently negative view of a non-aggression pact? It seems strange, and also discourages diplomatic play. I would like the option to be a great uniter through peaceful means, and sort of flip Total War on its head, but no, war it is. Additionally, and I'm glad there's a mod that fixes this, alliances should not be broken when you decline to join a war, because sometimes your computer ally is just really stupid and asks you to join a war that would be really bad for you. In reality, not all alliances are dependent on active participation. I think it would make more sense if alliances were only broken by the computer when you meet a certain negative opinion threshold, the exact amount depending on personality, or etc. Perhaps if you deny joining the war, you get a small penalty to opinion, and the option to support the war with resources appears. If you then deny that, you'll get a large opinion penalty, though the alliance still shouldn't inherently break. Perhaps it is because this period of time has fewer known individuals as compared to the Three Kingdoms period of China, but the lack of things to do with your generals outside of battle is very disappointing. If all you want from Total War is to conquer, then this isn't a problem. However, I loved all the character interactions of Three Kingdoms, and the way characters had opinions of each other made the game feel so much more alive. This game gives you nothing to do with your other generals as far as your own court is concerned. I especially hate how little there is to do with your wife. Other than diplomatic marriages, which never work because of how low the diplomatic opinion is, there's nothing for the female characters to do. I would honestly prefer they choose to not be historically accurate and just let the women be generals too, and actually give them nothing to do. The regions aren't very notably distinct from one another. The only major change is what resource they provide. However, because resources can be traded relatively easily, this becomes fairly negligible. Even if all my regions were only producing food and wood, that only matters because I'll have to spend more time in trading menus. The actual towns themselves are barely identifiable from each other. You can choose to make them different. Perhaps one town has a lot of military buildings and one focuses more on administration. I acknowledge how good that is to enable player choice. But that doesn't fix how the towns are bland. There are plenty of different bonuses for different reasons that could be applied. Perhaps they could even be related back into the resources. Like bronze producing towns give a bonus to elite unit production? Anything really, as long as it makes each town I acquire feel like it matters. I saw there was an IGN review where the reviewer praised the game for its story. All I'll say is they must be a dungeon master because they took the game board and made up their own story. One certainly doesn't exist here. Not since Tears of the Kingdom has a gamer played the same cutscene so many times. Watching every different faction enter a civil war was really dumb, considering the cutscene was the exact same. At that point, just show the one cutscene for your own faction. Also, while I didn't get to the end because of the crash, I looked up the ending cutscenes. I appreciate the praise I have seen discussing how artistic it is to do everything in the old hieroglyph style, or the style of the faction you choose, yet it feels cheap to me personally. I understand it is difficult to predict who you'll complete a campaign with, but that actually leads me into my next point. Make the major factions major. If you specify 10 specific factions to play as, go in with them. There is no reason to not have a specific cutscene for certain things happening as Ramesses per se. Why is there not a specific cutscene for Ramesses becoming Pharaoh? Make these important characters notable. If people want a traditional Total War without the cutscenes and fluff, suggest they pick a minor faction. Just the diplomacy faction saying "F you, Ramesses" doesn't quite do it for me. Also, give them specific character tasks to complete, almost like a story as seen in Three Kingdoms. If you're only doing it for 10 or so factions, it should not be that hard to do. Of course, while they didn't have specific character quests, they did have ambitions. The addition of ambitions feels nice at first. It's almost like additional side quests to keep you entertained. Ambitions are goals you can attempt to complete with a time limit for some kind of reward, most frequently a resource of some type. Very quickly though, they become just another background feature you don't really pay attention to. Once you've done them for just a while, it's difficult to not compare them to the quests that were available in Three Kingdoms, which were story focused. Take this province for Sun Ce to regather his father's old generals. Destroy Yuan Shao at Cao Cao to conquer the whole northern plains as he historically did. If you choose to ignore these quests, you absolutely could. Or you could not choose a major faction and not have to deal with them at all. But if you wanted to have an experience more about the story and characters, you could follow these quests to add a little extra difference between playthroughs. I feel absolutely no need to play Pharaoh as different characters because they don't feel like they matter to me. A different starting position, a few different general traits, that's all. As for the ambitions, there was one for Ramesses specifically that completing would give an alternate costume to. This was awesome. I'm not going to pretend I did not love this. For a lot of reasons, not least of which was I liked how it allowed the character to show they've aged, since characters otherwise stay the same appearance their entire lifespan in most Total War games. But this seemed to be very much the exception, not the rule. Royal traditions, I'm only going to touch on this subject briefly because there are 5 and I only tried 1. As for the Conqueror though, it was kinda pointless. I don't know, it takes too much time to significantly change how a single battle will go, and it didn't really provide anything very interesting. That might just be because the battles weren't very interesting inherently, but we'll get to that later. If I'm ever going to replay this game, it's definitely not going to be with the Conqueror Royal Tradition. Court actions, I guess these exist. If I ever come back to this game, I saw a mod that does auto gossip. Good. I mostly want to be able to ignore this. This is the kind of micromanaging that slows things down without really providing anything of value. Go in and gossip with whoever every turn to sometimes be able to do an action that is actually, or at least slightly, useful. Yay? I think an easy fix to make this somewhat of a good feature would have been to set an auto gossip for a specific target. Then you only have to interact with it whenever you want a specific function done. Still not anything big, but then at least it wouldn't be annoying. More important but fewer decisions? Yeah, I don't think this statement was true. Going to be honest, I felt just as much need to micromanage the battles, yet what I could actually do was less impactful. The biggest reason for this is easily because of the lack of cavalry. It is simply the case that infantry units move quite slowly, and because of that, it is difficult to pull off clever tricks with them. However, if you can't use clever strategies that allow you to save a significant number of your troops, what reason is there to not just auto-resolve every battle? Because it's fun? Well, no, they aren't. They aren't bad, they just aren't good. With previous games that featured cavalry, your main body of infantry, being melee and archers, would mostly just get into position and start fighting when the enemy ran into them, while you personally controlled the cavalry to pull off flanking maneuvers and target weak units like archers or already damaged units to take them off the field early. Now it's just slow. Your troops are still dumb in this game. You have to tell them what to do after the enemy they're fighting starts to rout, for example, otherwise they'll at best chase them, more likely they'll just stop. They won't just instinctively wrap around the enemy unit next to them, for example, so you can't just ignore them. The actual controlling of the units is less fun because, again, they're slow, and that's how battles feel as a whole. The generals are lame now. In Three Kingdoms, there were 5 types of generals who all had different strengths. Within those 5 types, each unique officer, of which there were very many, had unique skills. Additionally, you could put multiple generals within the same army. Controlling the generals was really fun, probably even more fun than controlling the cavalry. But the generals now suck. I'm gonna say it with my chest. Any other point about the battles is almost negligible, because this is why I did not like the battles of Pharaoh. The generals do not feel noticeably different from elite units. You likely won't have more than a few unique officers and they all blend together. I just started autoing everything. But the battles are supposed to be half the joy of Total War. They definitely weren't here. For everyone who prefers the higher realism of the battles, that's awesome, but I personally just find it to be a major step back. The final result. I want to make a few things clear. 1. Most of my playtime was without mods. It is possible that with enough time, the modding scene will have fixed a number of my problems with this game, though it isn't for sure that will happen. Normally the modders go where the players go, because they're usually players too. Pharaoh doesn't seem to have been a huge hit. There aren't any hard numbers, but that might actually be proof enough that they weren't great. At the very least, I will recommend grabbing the Radius mod. They're always pretty great and reliable additions to any Total War mod list. But as far as expanding the game just from community support, that'll have to be a wait-and-see approach. Secondly, I'd like to make it clear that what I'm about to say isn't determining whether or not I think you should play Total War. It's whether or not I think you should play Total War Pharaoh over any of the other games. I love the series. My personal favorite game, Three Kingdoms, has over 300 hours of playtime, which puts it just above Stellaris and only behind Civilization V for the game I have put the most time into. I am absolutely going to play more Total War in the future. With that said, I am going to give Total War Pharaoh a score of 6 out of 10, or good. It has too many features that feel just underwhelming enough to be intrusive without being fun. There's still a base here for some good Total War action, but there is simply no reason to play this over other entries. Thank you for joining me on this quick run, after 35 hours of game time and around 15 hours of writing and editing. I promise, it really was quick. For you, thanks again.